Hey guys, this is Jack, and this is my official fall forecast and preliminary winter forecast of 2013 and 2014. Before we get started, I'd like to tell you a couple things. First, I'd like to apologize to everyone who lives on the East Coast about the predictions I made last year. I practically promised a cold and snowy winter for you guys, but that didn't happen at all. My mistake was that I looked at the current weather patterns before I made my winter forecast and expected that they would stay that way. That, I've learned, is not a good way to make a forecast. What I've done this time is look at the current weather patterns as well as the weather patterns this past spring throughout the summer. Admittedly, this is still not the best way to do it, but it's still better than what I did last year, and I'm still expecting my winter forecast to work out better this year than last year. I would predict the weather patterns the way meteorologists do, but first of all, I don't know enough about meteorology to do that, and second, I don't have the equipment to do that. Anyway, based on the way the weather patterns have been for the past few months, I'm predicting future patterns, but I'm not saying that they will be correct. All I'm saying is that it's a better way to make a forecast, and it's more likely to work. Now I'd like to make you aware of a couple things about this forecast. First, I'm not a real meteorologist or even a student meteorologist. I'm actually a sophomore in high school. So please tell me if you notice any mistakes I've made and comment below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Second, I'm not going to explain all of the weather patterns a great deal again like I did last year, because I don't want to have to keep explaining them year after year after year. And besides, my forecast is already going to be very long. So I'm going to tell you the least I can about the weather patterns while still proving why I made the predictions without making it look like I copied somebody else's forecast. If you want to know more about the weather patterns, you can go my winter forecast from last year, or you could just go online and learn. Finally, this is a preliminary forecast, so things will change. These are basically just my best guesses after looking at all the current weather patterns. Also, I'm not very experienced at meteorology because I haven't taken any classes on it, so please don't completely trust my forecast. Before I show you my maps, I'd like to make you aware of the current weather patterns and how I'm predicting that they'll turn out in the future, so that you'll know why I'm making my forecasts. Otherwise, I may have just copied someone else's forecast, as I said earlier. First, I'd like to tell you about what's going on with the El Nino and Southern Oscillation, or the ENSO. The ENSO has to do with fluctuations in temperatures of the sea surface, temperatures off of the northwestern coast of South America. When the sea surface temperatures are warmer than normal, it's called an El Nino, but when they're colder than normal, it's called a La Nina. When they're around normal, it's called a neutral phase. However, it doesn't end there. You need to know the exact temperature of that part of the sea, because dramatic weather changes occur on the North American continent. So the El Nino and La Nina are classified into different intensities: the weak El Nino or La Nina, the moderate El Nino or La Nina, and the strong El Nino or La Nina. When the sea surface temperatures are 0.5 to 1 degree departure from normal, it's classified as a weak El Nino or La Nina. When they're 1 to 2 degrees departure from normal, it's considered a moderate El Nino or La Nina. When they're 2 or more degrees departure from normal, it's considered a strong El Nino or La Nina. However, when the temperature gradient is 0.5 to negative 0.5 degrees departure from normal, it's considered a neutral phase. I'm going to give you some examples of how much a different phase of El Nino or La Nina matters. During the strong El Nino phase, the subtropical storm track stays farther north, which means that the southeast gets more rain and snow than normal during the winter, while places like the Mid-Atlantic and the Midwest get drier than normal conditions. Also, the polar jet stream stays farther north, which blocks cold air from coming south. During the weak to moderate El Nino phase, however, the jet stream comes farther south on the eastern side of the country, but not on the western side because the warm air is pushing it north. The trough allows cold air to come farther south as well. Also, the subtropical storm track combines with the jet stream, especially when the El Nino is weak. That leads to strong winter storms, rain for the southeast, and snow for the mid-Atlantic and northeast. During the neutral phase, the jet stream is a little farther north than the weak to moderate El Nino, but it still allows cold air to come into the mid-Atlantic and northeast. And the subtropical storm track still comes a lot and combines with a jet stream, bringing strong winter storms to that region. However, during weak to moderate La Nina phases, the jet stream goes yet farther north and west. That brings more snow and cold to the Great Lakes region and the northeast. During the strong La Nina, however, the jet stream moves far west, meaning that most of the country is warm and dry except for the northwest and the northern Rockies. They get the worst of winter snow and cold during that phase. Anyway, you get the idea. Currently, we are in a moderate La Nina phase, leaning towards the weak side. Earlier in the summer, the La Nina was pretty strong. See the difference? Whoops, I don't know what happened here. Oh, there it is. See how it's pretty strong? In May, actually I could find the other one, but it is pretty weak to moderate right now. So my best prediction is that it'll keep getting warmer and will become neutral. So I'm predicting a neutral phase for this winter. Next, I'm going to talk to you about the North Atlantic Oscillation, or the NAO. Now, I'm not going to explain this whole thing to you because I did that last year. I will tell you what happens because of it, though. There are two phases of the NAO, the positive NAO and the negative NAO. When the NAO is positive, the westerlies increase in speed, allowing cold air to drain right off of the continent, and as a result, the jet stream and the rest of the cold air stay farther south. During the negative phase, however, the westerlies decrease in speed, which allows cold air to build up on the eastern side of the continent, and allows the jet stream to sink farther south, forming a trough on the eastern half of the country. It also allows more storm systems to come to the east coast, because the jet stream hugs the coast while it's heading northward, which takes storm systems right along with it. That causes the storm tracks to move up the coast and give you more snow than usual. The NAO is pretty positive right now, but it's been slowly heading negative. I'm not expecting it to go very negative for this winter. It's been slightly negative or neutral for most of the winter, and hasn't gone very negative in a while. So I'm expecting it to go a little negative, but it's just enough for the jet stream to go south and form a trough. However, I'm not expecting it to go any farther south than North Carolina with this type of NAO. Now, here's how the NAO patterns have been looking all summer. It also helps that there's a 2-week prediction of the NAO by meteorologists because it helps me more with predicting the NAO patterns beyond that, especially since I don't know how to predict the pressure systems involved in the NAO the same way real meteorologists do it. But it depends on how far south the jet stream will go. The NAO is very tricky to predict because it wavers and waffles all over the place, up and down, up and down. Think of the NAO as stormy ocean waves. It almost never stays in a straight line. So sometimes the NAO will be normal, and other times it could be quite negative. So both of the Carolinas, I think, are going to be tough to predict properly. Next, I'm going to talk to you about the Arctic Oscillation, or the AO. Just like the NAO, the AO has two different phases, the negative phase and the positive phase. Once again, I won't tell you what causes the AO because I did that last year, but basically when the AO is positive, the cold air is locked north because of the high pressure at the mid-latitudes, as in 45 degrees north. It also pushes the majority of the storm south, which leads to a warmer and drier than normal winter for the majority of the country, except for the northern part. During the negative AO, there's high pressure in the far north and low pressure down south. That makes colder than normal temperatures for the eastern two-thirds of the country. If it weren't for the highly wavy nature of the jet stream, partly caused by the ENSO, NAO, and PNA this year, there would be cold air all throughout the country. But because the ENSO, NAO, and PNA, which I will talk about later, are all in favor of cold weather in the east right now, a negative AO will not affect the jet stream enough to plunge down the western side of the country. Because the AO has been hovering around normal much of the spring and this past summer, I'm expecting it to stay like that. If it starts going slightly negative or positive as fall wears on, I'll tell you about that and change my forecast. So you notice how it's been going in a straight line. As you can tell by this map, it's dipped a little negative in the past few weeks, but it's gone positive again. So it's going to be pretty tough to predict. Anyway, finally I'm going to talk to you about the Pacific and North American pattern, or the PNA. Just like the AO and NAO, it has a positive and negative phase. The PNA is the simplest weather pattern of them all to figure out. All it involves is whether pressure is high or low on the seas south of Alaska. When the PNA is positive, pressure is high over the seas south of Alaska, which creates a ridge in the jet stream on the western side of the country, creating warmer than normal temperatures. But a trough is created in the jet stream on the eastern side as a result, meaning colder than normal temperatures on the east side. When the PNA is negative, however, there's a lower than normal pressure system in that area. The jet stream sinks farther south as a result, creating a trough in the jet stream in the west and forming a ridge in the jet stream in the east, which means cold out west and warm out east. It's that simple. All summer, the PNA has been slowly making its way towards being positive, as you can see on the map right here. So I'm expecting it to keep going that way. So I'm predicting a positive PNA for this winter. Notice how the PNA has gone positive in mid to late June, and then it dropped negative again. And then it went back positive all the way until the middle of September, and then it dropped very negative around the time of October. That's why we've been getting all this warm weather in the Midwest and the East Coast. But it's still been making its way towards positive all summer. And even though it dropped negative around the time of October, I'm still expecting it to go positive again. Now that I've finished describing all the weather patterns to you, the next thing to do is combine the current weather patterns so that you can predict precisely where the jet stream will be, where pressure centers will be, where the storm tracks will be, and where different warm and cold air masses will be. It's harder than you'd think if you want to predict really accurately. I have made an effort to make accurate, precise predictions, but like I said, things will change. I don't know how much they will change, but the weather patterns are changing and fluctuating as we speak. All we can do is make our best predictions. Alright, now to the forecast. As summer's nearing an end, you are probably looking forward to the